end of March to discuss the Detroit Works project. We all hear about what's not right about Detroit. But now it is time for us to look at Detroit's assets and build upon them to make the city we live in a place that we not just want to live in, but one that we shop in, participate in activities with our families in, worship in, work in, and one that others want to visit, shop, work, and possibly move to. So I'm excited about the opportunity to participate in this process and make Detroit that place. Last week, the Urban Land Institute, Danielle Rose Group, came to Detroit, and with the city, Mayor Bing, DEGC, University Commons, the residents and business owners in our area, some funders, and some of our elected officials, we spent a week looking at our immediate community, and specifically the Livernois Commercial District. It was a great week. The year-long Danielle Rose Fellowship provides participants with leadership training and professional development opportunities, and it benefits the respective cities by offering technical assistance on a local land use challenge. There were 4 cities that were chosen this year to take part of this program, and Detroit was one of those 4, along with Charlotte, Houston, and Sacramento. We hosted 8 professionals and 8 other urban cities, from 8 other urban cities. They gave us some great input and some great support, and they left with a very positive outlook for our city. It was just one of the many activities that are taking place in our community that will help us grow our city. A few more activities include the University Commons Shop Livernois initiative that encourages our community to support the businesses that are located in our city and continue to support us. We have a VIP shopping discount cards for our district. And I'm sure everyone has visited our new 1917 American Bistro, and saw a few of the new businesses and a new business complex that has opened with 2 new clothing boutiques and a new jewelry boutique, a new men's clothing store, Times Square, and that's just to name a few. We have great art galleries, a great grocery store, and many other great businesses. And you cannot see it from the street, but we have one of the first commercial buildings in our area to totally convert their electricity to solar. They cut their electric bill almost to zero. U.S. Solar and Wind, who has a Detroit office on Livernois, worked with Dixon Medical Equipment Service to install a solar system under the Solar X campaign, which has taken Michigan by storm. The system is a huge milestone for this part of the city, and it sits nearly across the University of Detroit Mercy's campus in this University Commons area. We've received $200,000 in facade grant monies to develop a section of Livernois to incorporate new lighting and sidewalks, new facades, new signage, and streetscape improvements like benches, trash receptacles, and bike racks. We received $100,000 in NOF funding for further facade improvements. We have a new farmers market, the Windmill Market, that's located on Livernois and the Lodge Freeway, open from May to October on Wednesdays and Saturdays. University of Detroit Mercy offers housing incentives to their staff and students that are working to purchase houses in our community. University of Detroit Mercy and Marygrove are 2 major universities that are located in our community that continue to invest in our community. There are many very active neighborhood associations that work hard to keep our communities attractive and comfortable for their residents and prospective residents. The 12th Precinct Neighborhood Coalition has several initiatives that pull together about 14 neighborhood associations to assist in the collective initiatives of the neighborhood associations, and the 12th Precinct Community Relations Group is very active in our community. And that's just a few of the activities that are happening in our immediate communities. So with that, I'd like to invite you to be a part of this process while we assess our deficiencies and use our assets to help plan the framework for our city. Let's all keep an open mind and positive attitude and work together to make Detroit the Detroit we want it to be. We thank you for taking out the time to come out and participating in this process. We thank you for working with each other to make some of the hard and creative decisions that it will take to move the city forward. We appreciate you coming out and gathering the information and passing it on to your prospective neighborhood associations and neighbors. And we have great residents and businesses in our community, and together we can give the input and participate in the process to make it work. We'd like to thank Mayor Bing and his staff for the opportunity. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Ms. Karla Henderson to the stage, the City of Detroit's Group Executive for Planning and Facilities.
evening. On behalf of Mayor Daving, I want to welcome everybody here. I know it was not what they did predict this weather, but thank you. This just shows the commitment that our citizens have to this process. So welcome. I want to acknowledge a couple of people. I want to start off by acknowledging our City Council President Pro Tem Gary Brown. And we have a former City Council member, Sheila Cockrell. I also want to acknowledge if there are members of the Mayor's Advisory Task Force. It's a 55-member advisory task force. Could you please stand up and be acknowledged for your hard work and your volunteer efforts? And then I know we have around here some members of the project team. I see Hamilton Anderson in the back. If you're a member of the Detroit Works project team, could you please either stand up or wave? Because you should definitely be acknowledged for your hard work. So let's just dive right into it. What we have tonight is what will be an interactive presentation. So everybody should have a clicker in your seat. We're going to basically go through what we're going to use those for. We're going to do an update of phase 1, which you may recall we kicked off in September by holding 5 community meetings. We're going to do a brief presentation on why change, and then we have a question and answer period. We want to just start off with rules of engagement. Basically, we just encourage everybody to listen and be respectful of all participants. So I'm going to call Heidi Nushri up. She's going to walk us through how we're going to operate these clickers.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Heidi Nushri from Community Legal Resources, a local Detroit-based nonprofit who's been working with the city to organize these meetings and to connect with leaders like Kim and the other leaders in this community to get the word out about these meetings. Couple housekeeping items before we get started. Before we get into the clickers, wanted to make sure a couple things. When you arrived, there are 2 items on the table in the back that you should have received. One is this broadside. The other, and for those of you who arrived early, you may not have seen this, it's a meeting schedule for the first 10 meetings, and very importantly, on the flip side, there are websites, phone numbers, and other opportunities for you to get involved in this process. So if you don't have this, please make sure you stop at the table on your way out. In addition, when you sat down today, there should have been 5 things on your chair. There should be a clicker, sort of like a mini remote control for your TV. There should be a pen. There should be a green question form for the Q&A that we'll get to later. There should be a blue service request form, and this is for those of you who have outstanding service issues that you would like for the city to address. The last thing that you would have is, and this is very, very important, this is the registration and comment sheet. This is very important because as you interact tonight with this presentation, we want to make sure that what you respond to can be attributed to your neighborhood. The only connection we'll have between what you respond to and you is this form. So we really need to get this back. The other thing I want to mention, on the lower right-hand corner of this form, you'll see something that says keypad ID. Now, this is to assign your remote control to your information, which is very important. If you turn the remote control over, you're going to see 2 numbers, a channel number and an address. We ask that you record your channel number and your address to your registration and comment sheet. Again, this is going to help us make sure that we can assign your information to your neighborhood. Now, if you do not have any one of those 5 things, if you could raise your hand now, and I'm going to have somebody come over and make sure that they get you what you need. That's a good sign. Now, as for how these clickers work. It's quite simple. We'll get to a slide, and we're going to do a test question. We'll get to a slide like this with a question. And what will happen is the presenter will read the question. The test question, just so we can all practice at this, is of the following, which is your favorite Motown artist? A, the Marvelettes, B, Stevie Wonder, C, the Supremes, D, Smokey Robinson, or E, the Temptations. And on your remote control, you can see you've got 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, 5E. Now, in a moment, you're going to see a countdown, and you'll have 10 seconds to cast your vote. Now, very important, if you cast your vote, let's say you say Stevie Wonder, but you say, no, it's really the Temptations. Whatever the last button is that you press is what is recorded. So, you've got 10 seconds to record your vote. Now, the very exciting thing about this technology is that you will immediately see how you voted. So, it looks like Stevie Wonder wins with 40%. So thank you for the practice question. Now we're going to get to some serious business. The next few questions that we're asking are some basic demographic questions. We want to make sure that we're getting representative information through these various meetings that we're having. And so in order to do that, we need to make sure we record some basic facts about you. So, what is your gender? A, female. B, male. Okay. There's the results. On to the next question. How old are you? A, 17 or under. B, 18 to 34. C, 35 to 54. D, 55 to 74. E, 75 or older. Okay, moving on to our next question. How would you describe your racial or ethnic background? A, Arab American. B, Black African American. C, Caucasian. D, Hispanic Latino. E, other. Thank you very much for participating in those questions. One last housekeeping thing. For those of you who would like to leave a verbal comment or feedback or suggestion for the mayor and his team, we do have a videographer in the hallway, and they would be happy to take those comments anytime this evening. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Heidi, for that. So, many of you have seen this slide before, and this is really what kind of jumpstart this whole project. Not quite a year ago, during the mayor's inaugural State of the City, he talked about now is our time. We have local, state, regional, federal leaders stepping up and wanting to work with the city of Detroit. We don't assume everybody knows what the Detroit Works project is, so we want to briefly go through the four phases. Phase one was our listening, learning, and analysis. So for the last 6 months, we have had our technical experts compiling a lot of data, basically. Our policy audits are about 1,000 pages thick. We kicked off 5 community forums back in September, and if you attended them, sometimes they were quite interesting. We got a lot of feedback, and we're going to share that with you in a moment. What now we're kicking off is phase 2. What happened is we originally said, okay, we're going to come out with a Detroit Works plan mid-year, and the mayor accelerated the conversation about the neighborhood analysis because he felt that that's what the community wants to talk about. So early April, we will have the neighborhood analysis completed. We will also talk a little bit about some of our early actions. Some of the mayor will not wait until the end of this year for a plan so we can get some implementation. We are doing things every day. We also are working on recommendations for final adoption. Right now, we don't know if that's going to be part of the charter revision or if it will simply be an amendment to the master plan. And then at the bottom, 30+ community forums, and tonight kicks off the first one. Then phase 3 is moving Detroit forward. We will come out publicly with several draft alternative scenarios. We will host 6 citywide community forums, and the citizens will basically guide us and select which preferred alternative they desire. And we will work on drafting that framework plan. Phase 4, we will go back out to the public with that plan for public review and comment. We'll host 5 community forums citywide, and then we will move to the adoption of the final plan. Phase 1, again, we touched over 5,000 residents. We were just ecstatic about the turnout of our community forums, and this is really what we heard, basically 3 top things. In terms of city services, we know that our citizens are struggling. There are a lot of challenges in our neighborhoods. Public safety by far was the most commented area, response time, and also residency. Our citizens are saying we want our public safety officers to live in the communities they serve. Blight elimination. Our citizens have said we want you to combat illegal dumping, increase code enforcement. We want more demolition faster where appropriate. And then vacant land. There was a lot of comments about vacant land vacancy and the impact that it has on the neighborhoods. We also got a lot of questions about how do you acquire the lot next door, as if you're a nonprofit, how do you acquire, or a church, how do you acquire that property? And then in terms of future needs, there were many comments about transportation improvements. Our regional light rail system was mentioned, and also people said we need bike lanes, we need access to safer mobility on our thoroughfares. The other thing that came out of the discussion was the use of vacant land and how do we use that strategically for economic development. So we went back to the drawing board and we said, okay, we're going to need to start to implement some things now. Chief Gabi is working tirelessly on internal operation changes. He wants to put more officers, get them basically from the precincts and get them out into the streets. He's working with a firm called McKinsey. They're looking at data in terms of how many actual hours of public safety a police officer spends on the street. The mayor will be announcing in February an incentive program to offer some of our vacant and foreclosed homes for public safety officers. We want to encourage our first responders to move back into the city. We are continuing with the Bing 3000. We kicked that off of April of last year. We have over 2,000 structures down, and we are committed to completing 10,000 by the end of this term. Vacant land, we are working with the Detroit Land Bank in terms of acquiring and assembling key vacant parcels. We think that's key in terms of being able to look at how do we develop the city in the future, kind of cut down on the speculators that are purchasing the property. And then we also want to increase opportunities for residents and nonprofits to acquire property. We want to be very clear in terms of what property is available and what that process is. So why do we need to change? We looked at several planning principles, starting with who will live here. If we look at our population data compared to other cities, over the last 50 years, we have lost over 1 million people. That outranks Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Chicago, Minneapolis, and Milwaukee. 85% of the city's land has seen a decline in population over the last 10 years. So this slide projects, if it's the area that's darker, means that the population has decreased greater. You'll notice this black box right there. So if we dive deep into that black box, what we did is we took a city area. We took McDougal to Moran, Willis to Leland, and we compared 1950 to 2010. In 1950, there were 185 homes. Right now, there are 40 homes. In 1950, there were 540 people. Right now, there are 116 people. There was basically 23 persons per acre in that area. There are 5 persons per acre. And if we looked at property and income tax revenue generated by that area, this is in real dollars today, that area would generate $151,000, and it's bringing in $32,000. But there's lots of opportunity here to not only keep our citizens and then look at what do we need to do to attract new residents. We have over 125,000 residential parcels that are vacant. So let's say we were able to populate half of those parcels. That would generate $173 million in property taxes. The average citizen is paying $2,700 for their property tax. If we were able to do this, property taxes would decrease by 21%. That person would save $600 and their property taxes bill would go down to $2,100. Our youth, over 28% of our population is under the age of 18. So what are we doing to retain our young people when, whether they're going to Wayne State or Michigan State or University of Michigan, what are we doing to bring them back home and then also attracting their friends and their family, basically? We want to look at services and amenities that would attract and retain our young people. And then by 2035, our senior population will double. We know most seniors have a very steady income, stable income, but we know that there are services that our senior population require, and what are we doing today to poise ourselves for that time? So we're gonna do some questions. So get your clickers out, please. What is the most damaging impact of population loss in your neighborhood? A, increase in blight. B, paying more for less effective services. C, diminished sense of community. D, no impact. And we're going to count that down now. Okay. So clearly 38%, it's pretty split, paying more for less effective services. And 4% said no impact, so. What is the ideal population for 2030 of Detroit? A, 2 million, B, 1 million, C, 850,000, D, less than 850,000, E, does not matter. Okay, 1 million. What is the best way to reverse the city's projected population loss? A, retain existing residents. B, attract new residents. C, both retain and attract residents. Okay. I think we got our Band-Aid on that. Another principle we want to look at is where will people live? 40 square miles of vacant land. So vacant land area is overwhelming for the city of Detroit. Detroit's percentage of vacant land is twice the amount of the average American city. The size and population of San Francisco would fit into the current vacant land in the city of Detroit. We are heavy in our single-family homes. Our city was built for single-family homes. The yellow depicts the areas in which we have single-family homes. 63% of our existing housing unit are single-family homes. So where's our opportunity though? Why don't we look at investing in our current existing housing stock while we create a diversity of housing stock options? So we have an increasing demand for a new development for multi-family units. The loss of the Garfield, 90% of the units are occupied. The Broader Tower, we have a $50 million renovation project that's going to provide 127 units. However, we know that we're not just midtown and downtown, and so we need to increase the density in our neighborhoods also. What is your neighborhood's most important asset? A, housing, B, location, C, sense of community, and D, access to recreation and cultural opportunities. Okay, housing. What should be done first to make neighborhoods stronger? A, repopulate stable neighborhoods. B, spread resources to neighborhoods across the city. C, disinvest in declining neighborhoods. Okay, so let's repopulate and spread resources. That's very interesting. Another principle we're looking at is where will people work? As you can see, Detroit has a significantly higher unemployment percentage than the United States and also our region at 24.3%. If you factor in people that are not actively seeking employment, that figure becomes over 50%. Job sprawl in the Detroit region is the highest in the country. So today, Detroit is the third largest job center. Only 38% of our Detroiters work in the city. The larger the circle means the more jobs that are in that area. Detroit currently has 14% of the region's jobs. So if we continue to lose jobs, by 2030, that amount will decrease to 11%. And you can see by the chart, the brown areas, the darker the areas are where they see a positive change, a gain in jobs, and the blue areas are the area in which they project to see a decrease in jobs. So our opportunity is to reposition the city as a major job center and put Detroiters back to work. Our international linkages are critical to value proposition, the U.S.-Canadian trade corridor. We have the largest U.S.-Canadian port for value of freight. This gives us access to Canadian ports, customs houses, forwarding and related services. We also have a great opportunity to reuse our public-owned land. The city currently owns over 42,000 parcels of vacant land. So we're going to ask you some questions. How important is it for Detroiters to have access to jobs in Detroit? A, very important. B, somewhat important. C, not important, very important. D, not important. What industry could have the greatest economic impact on Detroit's future? A, freight, logistics, trade. B, manufacturing. C, healthcare. D, small business growth, entrepreneurship. E, emerging industries, green, creative, technology based. Somebody said yes. Emerging industries, small business growth, entrepreneurship. I'm sorry. How will people move? We are a city very dependent on our cars, as you know. 69% of us use our transportation. We drive alone, and only 8% of Detroit residents use public transportation. When you look at who does not have access to private vehicles, over 33% of the households don't. The darker the area is, the higher the percentage of households without a vehicle. However, we are funding public transportation to an average of $140 million over the last 8 years. So if you look at the blue lines, that's DDOT's revenue, sales, and charges. When you look at the yellow line, that's our subsidy, federal and state. And when you stop at the yellow line and you go up to the top of the red line is our total operating expenses. This is subsidized by the general fund, that gap. So what's our opportunity here? Develop, attract reliable and equitable transportation options for all Detroiters. We heard that very clear in our forums in September. We're proud that we are working on a commitment of $425 million to the Woolward Light Rail. We're currently doing an environmental study on that project. And we have over 400 miles planned for a new bikeway system. This is just a start because we believe this is just the beginning to provide alternative transportation to our citizens. So we're going to ask some questions. What is the most important benefit of creating light rail in Detroit? A, access to jobs. B, less auto dependency. C, increased economic development. D, improved connectivity. E, there is little or no benefit. So clearly, 32% increased economic development followed by access to jobs. What changes are most necessary to improve transportation? Improvements for pedestrians, for example, sidewalks and crosswalks. B, bicycles, for example, bicycle lanes. C, automobiles, example, street maintenance and repairs. D, mass transit riders, for example, bus and rail improvements. Okay, 82% mass transit riders. If you do not currently use public transportation, which of the following best describes the reason? A, unreliability. B, cost. C, lack of access to bus stop. D, safety and or quality of bus stop. E, inability to reach destination. So 38% said unreliability, safety, and inability. Okay. What services will people need? Right now, we are spending $9 million per square mile for city services. We compare that to other major cities across the country, and we are obviously the highest. When you look at the left of the chart, we are also the highest when you look at how much we spend in thousands of dollars per capita. We also have a significant infrastructure investment. The blue line is the population, the blue bars that you see continue to decline and are projected to decline. The green bars are revenue, and the red bars are the infrastructure reinvestment. And right now, we estimate that that's at $1.5 billion. Only 10% of all Detroit public schools perform above the state average. That's public, charter, private. And those are represented in red. Then we will look at the health and wellness challenges. Our highest concentration of poor health conditions correlate with the areas of poverty and areas of older population. These areas demand an increased level of service. The requisite level of service is challenged by tremendous cost issues. So the purple line represents Detroit, the orange line represents Michigan, and the lime green line represents the United States. And so we looked at heart disease. So Detroiters experience a 48% higher suffer from heart disease, higher than the national average. So our opportunity is great here to enhance the quality of service deliveries and provide access to amenities. When we look at, right now we have basically 9 residents per square mile, and to deliver the most efficient delivery, to deliver a more efficient delivery of services, to get to our threshold, we need to get to 16 residents per square mile, and so we compared that against other major cities across the country. There's some efforts going on in terms of reducing our homicides. 15% decrease in homicides over the last year, and a 26% decrease since 2006. And we are funding the Green Grocer Program. So it's aimed at assisting stores with facade improvements, refrigeration improvements, and how do we connect food from Eastern Market. We're talking to Dan Carmody to get it into our grocery stores. So we put some resources behind that. So we're going to ask you some questions. Which of the following services is most important to your quality of life? A, mass transit. B, public lighting. C, public safety. D, public health. E, parks and recreation. .67% is public safety. Your ability to access which of the following is most critical to your quality of life? A, quality education. B, affordable quality health care. C, grocery stores, fresh food. D, quality goods and services. Almost 40% said quality goods and services. The second was quality education and fresh food grocery stores. Thank you. How will we invest? We have investments spread all over the city. So this map depicts 2 of our federal programs called Neighborhood Stabilization. It's a total investment of $89 million. It's for demolition, acquisition, and rehab. And as you can see, it's spread all over the city. When we looked, we basically took our neighborhood stabilization funds put down foundation investment, and then also city initiative target areas. It's spread over 121 square miles. So our opportunity is to achieve greater impact from public, private, and philanthropic investments. We made a commitment to tear down 10,000 homes by the end of Mayor Bean's first term, confronting immediate challenges. And we also know we need to address each neighborhood has very unique needs. And depending on the type of neighborhood, there should be a plan developed for the different type of investment or intervention, so that we can create an inspirational, vibrant city. So we have a couple questions. How should the city target its financial resources? A, areas of greatest need. B, downtown. C, traditionally strong neighborhoods. D, opportunities for greatest return on investment. 44% opportunities for greatest return on investment. Are there active interventions or investments in your neighborhood now? A, yes. B, no. C, don't know. Okay, almost half said yes. Okay, now we're going to ask you to prioritize the importance of investments for Detroit's future. We will ask you on the following slides, which of these is the most, second most, and third most important. So starting with the most question, which of the following investments is the most important to Detroit's future? A, housing. B, infrastructure. C, social services. D, education. E, commercial corridors. Heidi, you didn't give me my answer. It just went.
What'll happen is all three graphs will show up.
Oh, at the end?
Yeah, so first you gotta say have the one.
Okay. Which of the following investments is the second most important to Detroit's future? A, housing. B, infrastructure. C, social services. D, education. E, commercial corridors. Where's my... I need my timer. Okay. And then hit the arrow. There we go. Okay, second, most important. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to vote. Which is your third priority, most important to Detroit's future? A, housing. B, infrastructure. C, social services. D, education. E, commercial corridors. Okay, let's vote. Okay, so 46% said that education is the most important in Detroit's future. It's kind of split. Housing, infrastructure, education still strong for the second. And third, commercial corridor. Who jumps out? Okay, and we're going to ask you another question. We're going to prioritize. Which of the following three questions is most important when thinking about Detroit's future? A, who will live here? B, where will people live? And C, what services will people need? You're going to be able to vote 1, 2, 3 again. So this is your most important question. All right, what's your second most important when you're thinking about Detroit's future? A, who will live here? B, where will people live? C, what services will people need? And now we're going to vote on the third most important. All right, let's see what the most important question is. What services will people need? Second most important is a tie. Where will people live? And the services. And the third is who will live here. Which of the following 3 questions is most important when thinking about Detroit's future? Where will people work? How will people move? How will we invest? This is most important. Now we're going to vote on what's second most important. And now we're going to vote on what's third most important. What's most important? Where will people work? Followed by how will we invest? It's kind of split there for the second most important, but how will people move 37%? And then the third, how will people move? Okay, so now we're at our question and answer period. I think we've been collecting some questions. If you have some questions, just hold up the card and somebody will be around to collect them. Okay, we have a question that says, my neighborhood is being targeted for blight, as told to me by a city engineer. What exactly does this mean, other than myself and my elderly disabled poor neighbors being ticketed for grass taller than 6 inches and peeling paint? Okay, I guess I would need more information.
I can give you more information.
Thank you, okay.
Yes, I received a ticket, was told it was for peeling paint, what else? Crack siding and tall weeds, which are actually wildflowers. My elderly, poor, disabled, senior citizen neighbor received a ticket saying that the roof is damaged or something. So what I'd like to know is, does this mean anything other than citizens being punished and penalized, and instead of being assisted and being offered resources, especially to the poor people like my neighbor who can't afford to put a new roof on her house, desperately needs it and would if she could. And so I would like to know that. And also, this process of pushing these buttons is really kind of crazy. You said, you know, it creates this illusion that we're participating, and I think it's ridiculous, and I think if you really want to participate, come to Gracious Savior Lutheran Church next Wednesday, February 2nd, 5:30. It's on the Lodge Service Drive just south of 7 Mile. This is the new movement for justice that's begun in Detroit. Groups of citizens and workers to defend public services, public jobs, and public schools. This is the future. This is the city, the leaders of the city of Detroit. Please come, join us, have a real
Okay,
conversation.
ma'am, I'm going to talk to you afterwards specifically because I'm going to need to get your address because I would like to help you.
1554.
No,